We live in a world that constantly encourages us to do more. More tasks, more commitments, more opportunities. Saying yes has almost become the default response. But what if the real path to effectiveness is not doing more, but doing less? That is the central idea behind Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And it challenges a belief many of us rarely question. The belief that productivity is about how much we can fit into our schedule. Essentialism suggests the opposite. True effectiveness comes from focusing only on what truly matters. Greg McKeown is a business strategist and leadership advisor who has worked with companies around the world. Over time, he noticed a pattern in successful individuals and organizations. They were not the ones doing the most. They were the ones doing the right things, consistently, and with clarity. He describes this philosophy as the disciplined pursuit of less. The core principle of essentialism is simple. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. In modern environments, opportunities and requests appear constantly. Emails, meetings, projects, invitations. Each one may seem reasonable on its own, but together they create something dangerous. Noise. And when everything becomes important, nothing truly is. Essentialism asks a different question. Instead of asking how we can fit everything in, it asks what is truly essential. And that question changes everything. Because once you identify what truly matters, everything else becomes easier to eliminate. Most people operate under what McKeown calls the Non-Essentialist Mindset. This mindset assumes that everything is important, that we have to do it all, and that saying no might cause us to miss an opportunity. But this thinking leads to overload. Constant activity without meaningful progress. The essentialist mindset is different. Only a few things really matter. Everything else is optional. This shift may sound simple, but applying it requires discipline, because the modern world constantly pushes us in the opposite direction. More notifications, more expectations, more urgency. Essentialism pushes back. It reminds us that clarity is a choice, and so is focus. Unlike many productivity books, Essentialism is not about better time management. It is about better decision-making. Most productivity systems assume that the solution to overload is organization, better tools, better planning, better scheduling. Essentialism argues that the real problem is not organization, it is permission. The permission to decide what truly matters and eliminate the rest. Without that permission, every productivity system eventually becomes another layer of complexity. Once you start thinking like an essentialist, the next step is learning how to identify what truly matters. McKeown suggests applying a much stricter filter to opportunities. Instead of asking whether something is a good opportunity, ask whether it is the best use of your time and attention right now. That small change eliminates most distractions immediately. Because many opportunities are good, but very few are essential. Another important principle of essentialism is learning to say no. For many people, this is the hardest part. We associate saying no with being rude, unhelpful, or difficult. But essentialists understand something crucial. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you say no to something essential. And the cost is often invisible. Lost focus, lost energy, lost time. Essentialism highlights something we often ignore. Every commitment carries an opportunity cost. When your schedule becomes full, the cost of each new yes increases because it takes space away from something else. Sometimes that cost is invisible. It might be time you could spend learning, or thinking, or simply doing your most important work without interruption. Essentialists recognize that protecting space is not laziness, it is strategy. Essentialism also emphasizes the importance of creating space. Space to think, space to reflect, space to work without interruption. Without space, clarity disappears. And without clarity, decisions become reactive instead of intentional. One practical technique McKeown recommends is scheduling time to explore before committing. Instead of reacting immediately to requests or opportunities, take time to evaluate them. Is this aligned with your highest priorities? Or is it simply another distraction? That pause often leads to much better decisions. If you apply one idea from this book, let it be this: protect your time and attention more carefully. Before accepting a new commitment, ask yourself a simple question: is this essential? If the answer is not a clear yes, it may deserve a no. One of the strengths of essentialism is its clarity. The ideas are simple, structured, and practical. The book provides a framework that helps simplify complex lives and workloads. At the same time, there is a limitation worth acknowledging. In highly constrained environments, saying no is not always easy. Some roles and responsibilities leave little room for flexibility. But even in those situations, the principle still applies. Not everything deserves equal attention. In the end, essentialism is not about doing less for the sake of doing less. It is about doing the right things with full focus. Because when you remove the non-essential, what remains has room to grow. If this perspective was useful, you will find more structured ideas on the channel. Take your time exploring them. The right ideas, applied consistently, compound.